Welcome everybody and say, hey, thanks so much for joining our Substack here, our Substack Live. It's really a pleasure to do this, and it's a chance for me to spend some time with some new friends and just tell you kind of what this is about. And I'll turn it over to my lovely co-host. So we probably like I don't know 3 weeks ago or something. We published a post, and it's really about grief's firsts, and we all have different stories of loss, just like I'm sure many of the people watching have different stories of loss. And so the idea was to just get a few different perspectives on grief and approaching some of those first that are obviously now very different than they were before you lost the person that you love dearly. And so it was interesting for me anyways, because we all took a very different perspective on it. So I'll stop the rambling now and the setup, and I'll just turn it over. Maybe I'll go to Lynn first and just ask you to introduce yourself, and maybe just then turn over to Chris, and then we can start chatting.
All right. Well, I'm Lynn Broderick, Lynn J. Broderick. I go by on Substack, and I am in Northern Illinois. Enjoyed working with these two to come up with that post, which we got a lot of positive response on. A lot of people, have a little. Everybody's grief is different, but it's all the more the grief, the more the love, I guess. So it's just how we're all working through that and trying to connect with other people that are kind of working through the same thing. Chris, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
and
kind of rambled on myself there.
I'm not sure how much value add I could bring other than, hey, I'm Chris. I write my Substack is Now That I'm Still Here, where I talk about a little bit about grief, a little bit about everything else, being autistic, being a third culture kid, and surviving psychological abuse for being autistic. But anyway, mostly about, and I have a weekly dispatch where my dog writes, recapping the week and looking forward to the week ahead.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
maybe a place to start before we talk about, maybe like some of the things we talked about in the article was just maybe to share, uh, something about the person you lost, maybe who they were to you, maybe when they passed away, and maybe a few things that you really loved about them.
Do you want me to go
Uh,
first, or are you
yeah,
going to go
sure.
first?
I'll go
Okay.
last.
So what I didn't say is that I don't just write about grief on Substack, which might be important to know, but it does seem to be threaded through a number of my posts. It just kind of happens because I'm living it. So what I write is about my life, memoirish kind of stories. But I lost my dad in April. I call it classic grief. It's the grief that you'd expect, or I know, kind of hope for, I guess. My parents both lived into old age. My dad passed away at 91. It wasn't fun to witness his decline, but he had that last stroke. He was in the nursing home for 5 months, which was very difficult to watch because he couldn't speak, he couldn't feed himself, he couldn't do anything. But he did recognize me on occasion, and I'm also layered on top of that. I'm suffering. I try not to suffer too much, but I'm suffering from pre-grief for my mom because she really wasn't even supposed to be alive right now. She's got stage 4 lung cancer that's gone to her brain and her lymph nodes, and we found that out in February. So they were kind of in this race to the finish line, my mom joked about. And somehow my mom is still alive. She was given months, maybe weeks to live. It's been 10 months, but I kind of went through a little bit last week because she's all of a sudden, she's been stable, living on her own and everything. I handle all of her finances and everything, but she's kind of started to decline, and it's been great that she's been stable. She made it to my niece's wedding. She made it to her 85th birthday. She made it to our recent Thanksmas. But now all of a sudden it's like, oh, this shit's getting real. So I had been doing pretty well, but now I'm looking at assisted living for her and, whatever's going to happen next. So that's my story.
Well, hey, Lynn, can I ask you
Yeah.
a couple of things maybe that you really love about your dad and maybe your mom too?
Yeah, my dad, he's always been like almost too kind for his own good. Very compassionate man, very quiet, very, very quiet man. But I always knew that he loved me tremendously. that was always very obvious to me growing up. He was a bit, lectury, you could say, and a little bit like could find things that you did wrong a lot. So the teenage years were a bit not not really fun, but growing up when I was little, he was very playful, and then when he hit 60, he started mellowing out and I got to know him again as this man that I kind of knew as a little girl. So um he just was a very very sweet man. Um and I go on tangents and I got that from him, so I have him to thank for that.
So,
And my mom is she's kind of a piece of work. I I love her. We've had the contentious kind of mother-daughter relationship. Mom, I know you won't be watching, so I can say that, but she she's been very thankful for my being there. I was really the rock when my dad was dying, and I took care of all of it, including the memorial service and the obituary and all the details behind carrying the urn to her when the time came. And so she's been like, actually, she was never really nurturing, but she's been very grateful and kind of like calling me sweetheart and things like that, which that's unusual.
mm,
So, that's all I have to say about my mom, but her and my dad, they were together for 65 years, and, that's kind of, telling in itself, I guess.
yeah, fantastic. Hey, Chris, before you go, I just wanted to say that I saw Bob. Bob is commenting in the chat. I just saw, Bob, that you said you're really struggling and you're feeling incredibly low. And I just wanted to know that
Oh,
I saw that, and I just wanted to acknowledge it. And maybe, maybe that this conversation we're having right now will help you realize that maybe you're not as alone as you might feel. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that we see you and we see your brother. Chris, over to you, man.
Yeah, so I I was married for about 10 years. About 4 or 5 of those years, I went through incredible amount of psychological abuse for being autistic, where I was repeatedly told that I was an embarrassment and that the world would be better off without me. After um, I got myself out of that relationship, it was it involved uh, few months of getting help, or a month getting help at a intense outpatient treatment facility, and months later, unexpectedly, I was walking my dog. I had made some friends around the complex, and I saw one friend of mine sitting by the pool with someone I didn't recognize. And so I went to say hi, and next thing you know, I'm talking to this girl for like 3 hours. Um, uh, and literally, we we clicked. She was hilarious. She was funny. She could keep up with my stupid dad jokes, which I'm famous for. Um, and we started we started dating. It I wasn't prepared to date, um, and because I wasn't healed yet. I didn't feel, I'm still not healed from that past trauma, but I certainly wasn't then last year, right? But um, we even though I was a bit of a mess and recovering from that, our life was full. Um, we had so much fun. Um, um, she she made me feel like I could be loved, even though I was told I wasn't for being autistic. We went to wineries, we went go karting. We had a day when we went to a haunted Six Flags. Uh, when I was feeling so low, she found a way to always make me laugh. With that biting sense of humor that she had, and then this she got sick earlier this year, and she spent 3 weeks in the hospital, and I didn't know what to do. I started writing what eventually became my memoir, but it started as short stories to her, um, and to just explain the depth of what I went through and what her love really did for me, and how it helped me progress um, quicker than I anticipated progressing in terms of my healing journey. So um, yeah, and what I loved about her the most was her ability to just like see through the crap, and her thoughtfulness. Like whenever I was feeling low, she would bring me peanut butter cups and make me laugh, or um, she'd find ways to get my mind off of things, and always remind me that I was worth loving, like by leaving me little notes hidden around my place, in places that I would find, like under my pillow or in my sock drawer. Um, you know, one of my favorite ones was "I love you more than I want to strangle you." #winning. And that's the kind of sense of humor that she had, and it was a far cry from what I had come from. And what I had known um, for years. And I there was a lot of things I wish I had done different while she was still here. But I am grateful that she came in my life. And for a long time, I struggled with the grieving piece, because I was like, I didn't know her that long. Do I have the right to really grieve the way I am? And so I distracted myself a lot by washing dishes, or like trying to do everything else um, other than grieve.
Thanks for sharing that,
And
Chris. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I may need a
Well,
moment.
well, I wanted to actually. Well, okay. I'll tell my story. I have so many questions. I don't
Mm.
want to turn this into me interviewing everybody. I'm so curious about everything. But yeah. So my grief story is really anybody who reads my Substack knows this, but I lost my first wife to suicide. She was a police officer, and had a lot of childhood trauma, and after really 5 years of like a really horrific downward spiral after the birth of our second daughter, homeless shelters and psych wards and electroshock therapy and all kinds of stuff, and she ended up taking her own life in 2010, and then uh, that I didn't obviously realize this at the time, but that decision, let's say, or no choice is maybe a better way to put it, really set off a series. It's almost like it loosed a runaway train that I didn't know was coming, and it really shattered my older daughter's soul. And then in 2020, like almost 3 years ago, actually, February 1st, 2023, my daughter died in a drinking and driving accident where she was driving drunk. And, her mental health had just completely deteriorated. She was just not able to heal from her mother's death. And she killed herself, and she almost killed 4 people as well. It was just an absolutely horrific accident. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously been incredibly difficult. Yesterday actually was her 22nd birthday. So, it was pretty tough day. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they were both, if I look, some things I love about them, I mean, they were both hilarious. They were so similar, both absolutely charismatic, could light up a room. Um, in a way, their charisma and their beauty, because they're both like incredibly beautiful, and their charisma and their beauty was actually like a real blessing, but it was also when their mental health, um, deteriorated, it was also a curse because they had an incredible power to get basically anyone to do anything.
Mm.
So it was very easy for them both to surround themselves with enablers, let's say.
Oh,
So yeah, I mean, so it's really hard, obviously. But at the same time, though, I just believe to my core because I know that this has happened after my wife's death. That healing is possible. I don't know that you're healed. I don't even know if that's possible. I'll be a grieving dad for the rest of my life. But at the same time, um, even though my life doesn't look like I imagined it, I also absolutely believe to my core that number one, it's made me a still deeply flawed but better human being, and that it's put my life on a trajectory that it might not, definitely would not otherwise have been on, and
right.
it's allowed me to serve a lot of people and try to be useful to people in ways that I never would have had the chance to otherwise. So yeah, that's my story. So
You're like the Anderson Cooper of Substack.
yeah,
'Cause he
something like that. Yeah, without the fame and the wealth and all that, but yeah, sit in my basement. But yeah, I mean that's me. So are you guys? I'd love to ask a question that I'll of Lynn. I mean, a couple things that I was curious about from your story, Lynn. One is you know if you reflect on how your dad passed away, I'm curious, how the experience of watching him decline, versus maybe like a sudden death of a heart attack or something, like how that influenced maybe or how you think it might be influencing, your experience with grief. And another thing I'm wondering about is with your mom, because it sounds like you guys have
Mhm.
had a bit of a challenging relationship and that anticipatory grief. I'm wondering how much of, how much of your grief is influenced by this realization that you might not ever be able to like repair the relationship and maybe the way that you had hoped someday, or if that's a factor at all, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good questions. Well, with my dad, the decline was definitely very painful to watch. He became like he's a hunched over man who walks very slow. And I guess my relationship with my mom probably went downhill during that because he was living with her. She was the one that was like the caretaker in charge of him. And I I think it happens a lot where there's with the elderly and that kind of situation where the kindness and the patience is waning. And she knew that. I mean, my younger brother and I had to write her a letter and just say, hey, man, like when we're around the kids, their grandkids, can you please not tell dad to stand up straight? The poor man had scoliosis, and he was getting older. He couldn't use a cell phone. She'd get mad at him for that, those kind of things. So, but watching my dad decline in combination with her lack of kindness was very difficult. And it's like he became that man, the old man, and it was so focused on the things he couldn't do. In fact, the last summer, the last time they were both here, when my mom was still driving, my dad was having a good day. And, he had his walker. And he's like, you know what? I can walk around the counter without my walker. Let me show you. I mean, he talked a lot slower than that. Um, and so he did that with his hand on the counter and he's walking shuffling really slow around the kitchen island. And my mom the whole time was like, well, you're touching the counter. Let me see you do it when you don't have your hand on the counter. And I'm like, hey, man, the guy's like, look at what you're doing, Dad. This is great. And then he stood there at the end when he got all the way around and he was standing there without touching anything. And he's like, look at me, and then it was just a few months later that he had that debilitating stroke. But it was those kind of moments that was just like a bittersweet moment for me. But also just seeing him the night he went in to the hospital when he had that last, well, for all I know, there could have been more strokes, but the big stroke that put him in the nursing home, he's laying there. He seemed like himself, and um, he was having trouble. He couldn't get words out, and he was kind of like, bump, bump, boom, like kind of laughing at it, like maybe it was temporary, which it wasn't. So then, it was just, it broke my heart that he couldn't speak anymore. And I didn't know like what his last words would have been. We tried to see if he could write, but it was just scribbles. And so that's kind of like that whole situation is what inspired my first post here on Substack, which is which was called He Was Not His Final Days. Because after he died, which that was admittedly very, very traumatic for me. I mean, I don't like to really think about how it wasn't like one of those peaceful, deaths. Like, oh, he died so peacefully. It did not feel peaceful at all to me. But he did like look at me at the very end. But when I walked in there, his eyes were rolled up into his head. It was very, I'm sorry to say, very disturbing. Like, that is not my dad. But after the whole thing and going through all family photos and things like that and writing his obituary, it was like he was this man before all of this, before his decline. And that I actually wrote a poem. I don't even write poetry, but I wrote a poem, and it was He Was Not His Final Days. And it was about like kind of like who he really was. And yeah, so does that answer your question?
Yeah, beautifully. I appreciate you sharing. I mean,
So
that's some vulnerable stuff.
yeah, and then what was the question about my mom? I forgot.
Oh, I was just wondering if there's any of that anticipatory grief is about like, the state of your relationship and like maybe running out of time to like, I don't know if repair is the right word, but like to get it to a better place or something, or if that's a factor at
Yeah.
all.
Well, it got better when my dad went into the nursing home because the people there
Mhm.
they're like angelic. Those people were amazing, and he would had such good care, and everybody loved him there. And that gave me comfort, and my mom was able to just be herself again. And my dad's time in the nursing home, or had he died, it would probably have been similar. That helped to mend my relationship with my mom. And then finding out she had lung cancer, which we had no idea until my dad was like in the nursing home for a couple months already, and she had had bronchitis and had an abnormal chest X-ray. No idea that, oh, well, she was suffering too this whole time. I had no idea that she was actually, no wonder why she was maybe a little cranky and tired and all these other things. Definitely very forgetful and repeating herself all the time like it was Groundhog Day. The woman has brain cancer. I mean, no wonder. So I turned to compassion for her. So it definitely, I have to say now that our relationship is like normal again. So I went
Beautiful.
through all those difficult times, but because of just all the events and her, being able to now just when my dad was in the nursing home, just visit him. And then the kindness came out. Like it was like she even flirted with him a couple times. It was kind of cute. So it really changed things. So I don't want to make it seem like, gosh, I hate
Okay.
my mom. She's the worst woman ever. Um, I have love for her. It definitely, we all had a lot of anger towards her when she was caregiving for my dad, but now things have changed. So it's like, okay, now she's my mom again, and she's a human being, and now she needs help, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So
I get it. Yeah. Hey, Chris, can I ask you a question and I'll stop asking questions?
Yeah, good.
So I'm curious. I know because I know when you and I talked, like when we first met a while ago, we were talking about this article. Um, one of the things that really came across to me was just not only how deeply you were loved, but also how it was really the first time that you had felt like that. And I'm sure after such an abusive situation previously, I mean, there's no way anyone, as you alluded to, like you don't leave that unscathed, right? And so
Mm.
I'm curious how, having experienced that, someone loving you so deeply and the fact that you are lovable. I mean, I'm curious how that, how did that influence maybe how you think of yourself that way as far as worthiness or, how lovable you are I'm not saying you're looking toward the future now, but, you will in time. And do you think that how much of a lasting impact did that leave on you?
The feeling loves part, um, it's it's still something it's still a growth point for me. It's the thing I'm struggling right now is I've been fed the lie of worthlessness for so long, um, that it really rewired my frame of thinking, right? But where it did help was like when I told her like I was autistic, she was like, "All right, so we're gonna go to the Michael Jackson musical today, or what?" And you know, or like like it doesn't bother you that I'm autistic, and she's like, "So when are we doing laser tag?" Like she didn't care, and and what what really started to kind of shift things in me was like she would tell me how much I made her life measurably better, or how special I was. And I initially didn't like I I still treat statements like that with suspicion, but with her there was never like a catch. Like she meant it, right? And so it's starting to I still keep the cards. I still read them a lot, and that it, you know that is one tool I'm using to kind of like deprogram myself from that lie of worthlessness. Um and I don't know, like I I know I'm quirky. I know I can be a little bit difficult sometimes, but like I care. If you're sad, like I know I'm not that unlovable as it it like I know it here, right? That I'm not uh I am lovable. But here, like where it hurts, like these two, there's a disconnect between, well, they said, sh- you know it's a difficult question to kind of answer, but um it I think what she started to do and was to make me see and believe that I could be and I am lovable. I could be loved again, and that I am lovable. And the just the reading her handwriting almost every day of like, you're special, like keep going. You're um is really the voice I'm starting to really listen to eclipse years of the psychological abuse. Just um and just spending time with her family too. Like they invited me over for Taco Tuesday yesterday for my birthday, and
Oh, and happy
and
birthday.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. But it was like feeling her love by extension of them, uh, and it just kind of feels nice, and it's eye opening to know that like I know it was a one off thing. Um, I know I do have a lot to offer. It's just I have to start believing it again.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So, Jason, can I ask you a question?
Please.
So, how did you get through your firsts after the death of your daughter? I mean, that's like a parent's absolute worst nightmare. Um,
Hmm.
and I know now you're on your thirds, which are kind of like hitting you in a way you didn't really expect. Like you got through the first, and now you got the seconds, the thirds. It's like it just keeps. It's like it never really truly ends.
Yeah. No, great question. I mean, and that's why I wrote my part of the piece we co-wrote together is like third year first, right? Because
Hmm.
it's every year is so different that if it in a way it is the first year of this part of the journey in a way. So it's
Right.
but I think the first verse, I mean, so it's really I what really it's all kind of jammed up in one time of year because Chloe's birthday was yesterday, so like the December 16th, and there's Christmas. and then
Right.
her date of death was like she died on February 1st. So it's like this 6-week period of
Yeah.
kind of everything crammed together. But I think so much of it is a blur, to be the entire year is a blur. But I think that what I realized was, at least the first year, is that, and actually the second year too, was that it was the lead up was like I almost when I got to the day, like so say for her the first birthday without her, it's almost like I ran out of dread. Like
Mm.
I the first day, like the lead up to it was so intense, and I was anticipating how absolutely horrible it was going to be. So I was actually like experiencing
Right.
the worst of it before it actually happened. And so then when I got to the day, like her actual birthday, I was basically like, I just felt dead. I didn't feel any emotion about
Mhm.
anything. Actually, I didn't really feel dead. That's like way too, but I just didn't really feel much of anything. Like I wasn't
Right.
upset. I wasn't, it was just seemed like a normal day, but it was like, but I was exhausted from everything leading up to it. And that's actually what
Mhm.
happened the first year. I would say the first Christmas, I couldn't even consider putting up the tree or having anything to
Yeah.
do with it. My wife took care of it. So I mean, there's no there was no joy or anything like that. And to be honest, it's in a way, it's kind of it can still feel like that way at times. Like I definitely have joy in my life, but there's these things that are used to be joyful are
Mhm.
it's more effort to find the joy in them again. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is that the lead up the first year was way worse than the actual day itself. But it's still basically the same experience of grief. I'm just shifting the
Yeah.
timeline forward a little bit as I
You
anticipate.
used it all up before the actual day. That happened to me with Thanksgiving too. Like I was just like, "Oh, the holidays are gonna be terrible," and I didn't realize my birthday was gonna be so bad, and then Thanksgiving was kind of like, "Oh, this is easy." So it is hard to it's interesting how that all it just you just don't know when it's gonna hit. It just kind of it has its own like a mind of its own, this
Absolutely.
grief thing,
Yeah, it does.
definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so I think that's what makes it so challenging is that the things that like I think it's natural. Like so when you lose someone that you love dearly, like obviously it shakes the foundation of your reality. I mean, these
Mhm.
things that feel like they were permanent is that are gone. And so so it's very disorienting. So I think that it is going you even by expecting to even for me, like expecting to dread, or for these birthdays, the anniversary of death, Christmas, like expecting them to be terrible in a way was actually comforting because
Mhm.
it provided me a level of what I thought was certainty and a reality where now nothing feels certain. So it's like, okay, well, at least
Right.
I can count on that sucking, right? And the
Mhm.
thing is, and then it didn't. So
Right.
so it, or at least the suck did not unfold in the way I imagined. So it's like grief is so unpredictable, even when you try to predict the crappiness, even that doesn't work
Mhm.
out. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, I think that's, I never really thought about it like that actually until you asked, but yeah.
Yeah, you just kinda have to go with the flow. I had an interesting situation where I was everything seemed great, it was summer, I'm like, "Oh my, I'm just doing this grief thing, like, I'm a champ, look at me." And then, I don't know if you guys
Mm.
know Chris B. Writes. He writes a lot of poetry, and he commented on my first poem, and he said, "Oh, this totally reminds me of the song Monsters." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, I've never heard of that. Who sings it?" And he said, well, he gave me the link and then he said, "Brace yourself." So I watched this YouTube video of this singer, James Blunt,
Mhm,
sing this song the with so much emotion, and it's about his father and as a kid his dad chased his dreams away, or not his dreams, that's terrible. Cha- chased the monsters away from under his bed and
Mm.
helped him not be scared, but now it's his turn to help his dad chase the monsters away, and it's all about that. And I just lost it, and I just backslid in my grief, like, oh, I'm not
mhm.
okay after all. So, and I was like, thanks a lot, Chris. Um,
you know what's interesting about what you just said though is that, so first of all, I also wanted to say, by the way, for anybody listening, in the interest of full transparency, that first Christmas I was completely stoned the entire
oh,
time. So let's be real about that.
there's an idea.
Oh man, yeah, like just the only way I could tolerate anybody was by smoking it, going outside and smoking a joint. But you know, it's interesting how you just said like two things that I notice that people say all the time. Number one, you lost it. Like that thing that kind of drives me crazy when people say I lost it or I broke down because it's those are things you try to avoid. But those it's
Hmm.
not losing it; it's just having a normal human experience. And then how
Right.
you mentioned that you backslid into your grief. I don't see it as bad. It's the process.
I know.
Yeah, it's not. But
Yeah.
you know, the words we use, they
Yeah.
have
We're hard on ourselves.
yeah, for sure.
Is
So,
what it is. You know, you get impatient with yourself. Like I should be done with this, and you know, I was feeling a little down like last week, and then a Christmas my husband loves Christmas. He's like junior bluebird, this man, you know, and it's like I can't like always be up. And
mhm,
he's like that way. It's very unusual, quite honestly. He's like the Tony Robbins of the Midwest. And I live with him. So, you know, it's like, can you not play those or can we like turn that Christmas song off? It's like really getting to me.
Hmm.
And because there's certain ones that really just they're very emotional. They're a little too like it's like you're at a church or something. It's a little bit too much. Like I can't handle that right now. It's not like I can never hear Christmas songs, and I'm trying not to be a Scrooge. But yeah, it's I forget where I was going with that whole thing.
I
So
know.
but anyway, yeah, you just never know. But we do. I know what it was. We get to be hard on ourselves for not being happy enough in that moment. Like, shoot, I should be like joyful too because it's the holidays and I'm here with my wonderful husband and our life is good and you know, I'm sitting in front of a fireplace and we have great food on the table and blah blah blah, all those great things. And sometimes it's like I still am going to be sad. I mean, that's just how it is because you can't just stuff it down.
Yeah,
You have to, like, kinda go with it, and you don't have to necessarily wallow, but sometimes you do wallow, and that's okay too, so
yeah,
I guess that's just how it is.
for sure. What about you, Chris? I mean, what you know in the article we put together? What did you write about when it came to first? I mean, I know what you wrote about, obviously, but I'm pretending I don't.
um, I it, I kind of alluded a lot to like the or my writing tends to be very flowery. What I try to allude into it is that it was gonna suck, right? Um, but then I explored the deeper question of like, do I have the right to be grieving this way?
Mm.
Um, in especially with not knowing her that long and in relationship to um like a parent or well, from my perspective like I felt like my my grief was a lot less sacred than her parents, right? Because that's a very difficult position to be in, right?
Mhm.
It there's something not natural about that process, right? Um, it's as difficult as it is. The natural order of things is the kid buries the parent,
Right.
and and I tried to explore a little bit of like, is there how long is long enough to have grief hit you this hard, right? In in relationship to the trying to give space to other people's grief too, and it it's still something unanswered to me, right? And like it does hurt, um,
Mhm.
and I think I think um, it was what made it complicated was like there was still so much left for us to do, we had plans.
Right.
We were gonna go. She had bought me I don't know if you guys ever heard of the experience of being able to drive a Ferrari. She had got me 8 laps in a Ferrari,
Cool.
and and that was funny. She was like, "Oh, you're only sticking around with me because that's coming up, and you're gonna break up with me after that." I'm like, "No, absolutely not." Like, um, and I ended up doing that. It was the weekend after she passed. I had
Mm.
no idea what time I had to be there, because we were gonna do it together. And anyway, um, yeah. But to answer the original question, those are the kinds of topics I explored. It was
Mhm.
like, do I have the right to be grieving this hard, uh, even though I didn't know her that long? Um,
Yeah, it
and
came out as a love story. It was really beautiful.
yeah,
And I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just thinking that the loss of her is a loss of a dream of what could have been, that it was such promise of something really special. And so there's a lot more to it than just how long you were with her. And, it's the amount of love, and that's simple as that.
and it's
In
something.
my humble opinion.
Yeah, and it's something I think about, like, you know, the even though if there was a lot of, you know, we had plans, there was a lot of promise there, but like, who knows, like, if the variables were different, if she were still here,
Mhm.
would we have still been together, right? That's unknown, but what I do think about is, like, I would have, irrespective if we were together or not, I would have still loved to have her in my life at some capacity outside of that, because she just brought so much thoughtfulness and joy and light to my life, that even if we weren't dating after, let's say, over the summer, like, we stopped, like, we made it a year together, and then, okay, let's go our separate ways, that she was so special enough that she still would have been a brilliant light in my life. And
Mhm.
because she was that, not just for me, she was that for her cousin, who she signed up to go to rap school, uh, with, or to support him, and to be his cheerleader. She would do things like that. And, she eventually liked it. She won awards. She even had she did a collaboration with a couple of her students, and it got sold to a TV show. And
Oh,
so some
wow.
of her work, yeah. Um, and yeah, she was just a very unique person.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I'm straying away from that original question, but um, yeah, that's the kind of things I try to explore in that writing.
I think you did a masterful job. I just wanted, we have to wrap up here in a couple minutes. So, but I wanted to just say, Bob, I'm seeing your messages, man. And please do get help. Like, I'm serious. Like, I see you're having suicidal thoughts. Like, I
Oh.
want to tell you something, man. Okay, listen, dude, you need to get help. Okay. And trust me when I say this, as the person who has been on the receiving end of, or has had to live the aftermath of someone who has ended their own life, you are only going to transfer the pain you're experiencing onto the people that love you, man. You're not, there's no pain being taken away here. Trust me. So I am happy to talk to you if you need to. Like, you can message me after, but please get help.
There's also 988, and they do a
Yes.
masterful job. You could text them, you could call them. I've used them. They're fantastic. But yes, do get help.
Mm. Goodness.
Yeah.
So maybe to wrap up, I mean, maybe just for each of us, just maybe something for people to take away, or something that maybe you think might help people. As I'm sure there are people on here that are navigating their first as well. So, um, yeah, maybe just something to wrap up.
I really love what helps me. I love listening to Anderson Cooper's stories. He's got the podcast, All There Is, and for whatever reason, and Jason, I was kidding around, but it's really true. Sharing other people's stories, listening to other people's stories is really helpful. Um, it's very comforting. It makes you feel like you are less alone, for sure. Tara Brock is also one other person with her one specific podcast episode called Fires of Loss. And I've listened to that a number of times, especially right after my dad passed, and I was just traumatized, and it really helped me a lot to get through some of that.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, what about you?
I am choosing to write my way out of it. I don't often know how to tell things or say things out loud verbally to people. I always feel funny saying it out loud, but for me, it's just writing it out. And that's how I'm getting through it.
I will say, I mentioned in the comments, but whenever I read your writing, Chris, it makes me grapple with how terrible of a writer I actually am compared to you. So keep doing that, because I think your writing is absolutely brilliant.
It is. It really is.
You guys are too kind.
And I think for me, I would say that regardless of whether it's a first or not, you can heal. Like, it's messy and it's complicated and it's painful. And I always think of it like that Japanese art of kintsugi, when pottery breaks and they put it back together with gold flake or gold glue. So it's different, but it's still beautiful. And so you might not, if you're in the immediate aftermath or the first year, second year, third year, fifth year, whatever, of a devastating loss, just, even though things don't look the way that you ever imagined them doing, you can heal and you can move forward, and you don't have to do anything. I just would invite you to just keep believing that, because things can get really dark, right? And, but I think that in the end, positive images of the future inspire positive action in the present, and healing is possible even when it feels like it isn't. So, I guess that's what I'd love for you to take away.
Beautiful.
Well, all right, friends. And I want to say to the two of you, thank you so much for inviting me on this collaboration. It was a pleasure to create this with you. And
thanks for joining in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, friends. Well, so this will be all posted. It does it all automatically, and I'll share the clips with everybody. But maybe just one last time, just talk just a quick blurb about your podcast, and we can wrap up. So mine is Leading Through Loss, and I write really about how being human, like, is just with ourselves, with each other, whether it's at home or at work. Being human is just the most important thing we can offer to ourselves and one another to help get through life's hardest days.
I write on Substack as Lynn J. Broderick, and my publication is called Writing Unfiltered in parentheses. And it's I share memoirs, stories, and unfiltered reflections, I guess you could say, most of it served with a sense of humor.
And then I write on Substack under C. Carazas, or my Substack is called Now That I'm Still Here. I write, it's a companion to my memoir, and I explore topics on grief, loss, overcoming trauma, and resilience after your life falls apart.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. And
thank you.
Wonderful Christmas. All right. Take care.
You guys too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.